So I'm on a walk here in Gilbert, Arizona in this nicer neighborhood, and a lot of these houses go for about $1 million. And if you were to put 20% down on $1 million home and have a mortgage for $800,000, your mortgage payment at an interest rate of just below 7% is going to be above $5,200 a month, and that doesn't include taxes and insurance. That is a crazy amount considering that the average American makes about $68,000 a year. So that would take up all of the average American's income. So how can people in America afford a home today? It seems really, really difficult. Well, in today's video, I'm going to talk with you about 4 ways that can help you afford a home today in today's market. All right, so the first of the 4 ways of being able to get into a home in a more affordable way is look on either Zillow or Realtor.com or Redfin. Look for a property that has been listed for a really long time. Anything that's been listed for over 90 or 100 or 120, 140 days, because basically that's been on the market for a long time and there's a reason why it hasn't sold. Either it's been priced too high, or maybe the owners think that it's worth more than it really is, and they want to stick with that price, or maybe they owe a lot, and if they lower it, they're going to have to bring money out of their own pockets in order for them to be able to pay a realtor to help them sell it. Or there also may be something wrong with the house. So if you find a listing that has been on there for 3, 4, 5 months, then you can call up the seller's realtor and ask the realtor a little bit about this property. Find out if there's anything that has prevented it from selling. Has it been under contract before? Why hasn't it sold in the last 3, 4, or 5 months? Then with that information, you can do a combination of 1 or 2 strategies in order to be able to get into that house in a more affordable way. So what I would say to a seller's realtor is this. Hey, Mr. Jones, I noticed that this house has been on the market for 4 months and it looks like the price has come down a little bit. I'd like to know a little bit more about the property because I'm really interested in making an offer. Then Mr. Jones will say, well, do you have a realtor? And you can say, I don't have a realtor who's representing me. I just want to find out a little bit more information about the house. And if, I in fact do want to make an offer, then I'll let you know and ask you to write up the offer for us. Now, most realtors will say, okay, I can do that because then they get paid on both sides. So it incentivizes them to work on the seller side and also the buyer side. But some realtors say, I can't do that. I, have to send you out to somebody else. That happens sometimes, but you can still ask them some information. Let's say that they say, well, the layout is a little bit, awkward, and so we just haven't been able to sell the house. So you would ask them, a little bit more information about that, why is that, or in what way is the layout awkward? Or if they said, there was a roof leak and the sellers don't want to fix the roof, and so that scared some buyers away, just find out the information. And then don't get scared by what the seller's realtor says. Just hear what they have to say, and what may be a deterrent for one person may actually be a benefit for another. So after you talk with this person for a little while, then you can say, well, I'd love to make an offer, and I can actually do one of 2 things. I can offer you, what you've put it on the market for. I can even offer you maybe $5,000 more if you can help me with the financing, or I can also offer you a lower offer. Let's say the seller is wanting $350,000 for the property. So one thing that you could say is, I can offer you $350,000, or actually I can even offer you $355,000 if you can help me with the financing. Otherwise, because interest rates are so high right now, the most that I would be able to offer on this property would be $300,000. So I can offer you $300,000, or if you can help me with the financing, I can offer you $355,000. And the seller's realtor would probably say, what do you mean us help you with the financing? And so then you would say, tell me a little bit about the seller and if the seller has a loan on the property, or if the property is free and clear. So let's say that the realtor says to you, well, he owns it free and clear. Say, wonderful. Well, one thing that I could do is I could give the seller what my down payment would be. And then if the seller can help me get financing until rates get below 4%, then I am totally fine with paying you $355,000. But if I'm not able to do that, then the most I'd be able to offer would be $300,000. Or let's say that the seller has a loan on it for $300,000. Another thing that you would ask is, well, what is the interest rate on that loan? And let's say that the interest rate on that loan is about 4%. So you could say, well, if the seller is willing to keep the loan in place, then I'll take over the loan and I'll continue to make all of the payments. And as I do that, that will help me so that the payment is not too high so where I can't afford it. And then you could tell the seller's realtor that you could give the seller the down payment that you were planning on putting down of $55,000, and the seller could then pay the seller's realtor, and the seller would be able to get what the seller was planning on getting out of the property anyway. But now you have an interest rate of 4%, which compared to what interest rates are at today, that would be a fantastic rate. So if you're able to keep that loan in place and you have a loan now for $300,000, even though you bought that property at market value, the interest rate that you have being 4% is going to make it so that your loan payment is probably going to be about $1,500 or $1,600 a month with principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, which would be fantastic. Now, if you were to offer them $300,000 and you brought in $50,000 as a down payment, then your loan would be $250,000, but at an interest rate of 7%, what that does is it makes it so that your payment is probably going to be $1,700 or $1,800 a month. So your payment would be even higher, even though your total overall loan balance would be lower. Now remember, what I said at the very beginning of this video is I'm going to teach you how to get a house that's more affordable than if you were to buy a house at market value. And so here are two of the first ways. I can either buy the house for less than what they're selling it for by giving them an offer for maybe 15 or 20% less than what they're trying to sell it for. They may say no, but I can say, you know what, with interest rates the way that they are today, that's the highest that I would be able to offer. Or if the seller is willing to keep the loan in place, then I can actually buy the property for the same price that the seller is looking to sell it for. Because for me, I can afford that payment. Now, here's a little secret. The moment that interest rates go down, what's going to happen is the value of the home is very likely going to go up. And the reason it's going to go up is because most people don't buy a house based on the home price. Most people buy a house or qualify for a bank loan to buy the house according to what the monthly payment is going to be. See, that's how a bank qualifies you. They take a look at all of your debts and then they calculate how much of a payment would it be for them to give you a loan on this house. And then they look at your debts plus this new loan payment in order to determine whether or not you can afford the house. So it's less about the price of the house and it's more about the monthly payment. So as soon as interest rates go down, then what's going to happen is the value of the house is very likely going to go up. Because again, people qualify according to the payment, not according to the price of the house. So if I can afford a $2,000 payment and interest rates are at 7% right now, then what that means is I can probably only afford a house of $300,000 to $350,000. But if interest rates go down by just 1%, then I can afford a house that's maybe $50,000 higher. And if interest rates go down another percent, then I could probably afford a house $100,000 higher. And you could probably guess about how much a house price is going to be based on the interest rate. Usually people buy a house just a little bit above what they can afford. So when you look at it that way, and you consider interest rates coming down, there's going to be a lot of people that go into the market, and a lot of people going to the market is going to push up the price of that house. So if you're able to get the house today at $300,000 and have a mortgage on it for $250,000, as soon as interest rates come down by 1 or 2%, then your house is likely going to be valued at $50,000 to $100,000 more than what it was when you bought it. So just to be transparent, even though I've done a few investments where we took over the loan of the previous owner and we purchased it subject to the existing financing, I wouldn't say that I'm an expert in that area. In fact, there are a lot of people that are really expert in that specific type of investing, such as Pace Morby. He has a YouTube channel where he talks a ton about taking over properties subject to the existing financing. He has a huge following on Facebook and other platforms where he teaches a lot of people about subject to and things like that. So if you want to learn more specifically about that, that's great. Go ahead and find his content and follow that. So the third way of being able to buy a house that's more affordable is finding a house through a wholesaler. Now, I've talked a lot about wholesalers throughout my many different videos because I work a ton with wholesalers. And I've gotten on a lot of wholesale lists here in Arizona. And one great way of getting on a wholesaler list is go to Google and type in wholesaler, real estate, and whatever city you live in. And you are likely going to find wholesalers in your area. Or you can go to a real estate investor meetup and you can say, hey, I'm looking to buy a property. I'd like to connect with wholesalers. And then you get on their email list and then they will email you properties that they find and they get under contract. And so that's one way of starting to view different properties from wholesalers. In fact, I probably get 100 properties every day to my email, and I'm able to quickly scroll through them and see if there's any of those properties would be a good property for me to invest in. Wholesalers are able to find properties and get them under contract for oftentimes way below the market value, usually maybe 15% to even up to 30% below the market value. Now, you may take a look at this property and think, no, this property is bad. This property has too much to fix and things like that. You know what? That doesn't matter. In fact, that can be a good thing. Remember, what one person's deterrent may be another person's benefit. So if you go into a property and it's really bad, then it's likely that you're going to get a discount on buying that property. And if you want the property to be a certain way and you can get a discount and you can fix it up the way you like, well, that to me, in my mind, is better than buying a property that's just okay. Because if you buy a property that's just okay, they're not going to sell it to you at a big discount, and you're going to have to rip it up in order to make it the way you want anyway. So the benefit of buying a property that's really bad is you're probably going to get a big discount on it, and then you can rebuild it the way that you want. Now, I'm going to say something right here at the risk of offending a lot of people. I have had a lot of my friends that know that I'm a real estate investor reach out to me, and they've told me that they'd like to buy a property and they are planning on buying a new home. And I say, oh, that's great. Here, this is something that you can do in order to buy a home under market value. And I talk to them about wholesalers and I talk to them about making offers on properties that have been on the market for a long time. And you know what they tell me? You know what, Shiloh, that's great. I think that's an awesome idea, but I just can't do it. And I say, well, why not? I mean, this would help you so much be able to save you years of working, because if you do it this way, you might be able to get into a property for $50,000 or $100,000 less than what you can buy it for on the market. And they tell me, well, my wife is just not going to be okay with that. My wife isn't going to want to live in a property that we have to fix up. My wife is not going to be okay, buying that type of property. So this is the offensive part, and I'm willing to say it out loud. Ladies, if you love your husbands and you want to save time in being able to build wealth so that your husbands don't have to work for so long, or maybe you also work and you can even save yourself time, be willing to buy a property that today may not look good. Buy it with the vision of what it can be. And again, I don't mean to be sexist, but all of my friends that I talked with, when I said to them that I wanted to help them buy a property under market value so they could create equity very quickly, they all told me that their wives would just not be okay with it. So if you love your husband, if you love your spouse, be willing to look beyond what it looks like today to what it can be. And if you do that, then you're able to create $50,000 or $100,000 of equity by just buying the house creatively. Okay, now I'm ready for all the negative comments. Go ahead and put any negative comment you need down below and I'll respond to it or delete it, whatever. Anyway, so let's get back to what I was talking about. Finding properties through wholesalers is another great way of being able to get a property well under market value. And when you do that, you can often fix up the property so that it is according to your liking and still have that property be way under market value. So that is another great way of getting into a property in a more affordable way. And lastly, let me share with you one more strategy that I have used personally in order to help me get into a house in a more affordable way. And that is what is commonly referred to as a house hack. So what is a house hack? A house hack is I'm going to purchase a home that has some sort of rentable space along with it. So if I can purchase a home that has a guest house in the back, then I can rent out the guest house, and renting out the guest house can oftentimes help offset a lot of my mortgage costs. And so this is what I did a few years ago with a property that I purchased with my wife and I. We lived in a home, and it wasn't a very big home. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath home, and it had a guest house in the back. And we were able to rent out that guest house for half of the mortgage. So our mortgage was about $2,400 plus another $600 for taxes and insurance. So we were paying about $3,000 a month on our housing. And we were able to rent out that small studio apartment in the backyard for $1,500 a month. And that greatly helped offset the cost of our monthly expenses for our housing. So another way that is very helpful in making housing more affordable is purchasing a home where you have a space that you can rent out. So I know right now interest rates are high and it seems like house prices are high. And so it feels like, oh, there's no way that I can get a house. And that is completely true for the average person. Let me give you a piece of advice, something that I heard from Robert Kiyosaki. He said, don't be average. If you want to figure out a way to where you can make housing more affordable, then don't be average. Because it's true that the average person can't afford housing today. So my advice, don't be average. And now that I've likely offended a lot of people, I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel. I hope it's helpful. And if you like my content, go ahead and keep watching, and I will do my very best to provide you with great content and hopefully not offend you as much as I did today. Anyway, have a great day and good luck investing in real estate.